Hey everybody, welcome back to 3D Buzz. This is the concept art class, MMO Development. It is 18 September 2013, and you will remember this day in history because it's time to put our big boy and big girl pants on. We've been developing this thing for about a year on the art side. We just got the design team in here. And if you can, Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson, he's my handler. Thank you for being here. It's time to have a serious talk about what's going on and what we're producing. It is time to crap or get off the pot. I've been reading lots of posts online. There's a lot I agree with. There's some things I do not agree with. And come hell or high water, I want to move forward, even if it's just an inch at a time. We have a rich story. We're starting to make some assets. We got one hell of a great design team. Chris, he's going to do a great job. I believe in him. I believe in the entire team. So tonight we've locked down our art style. I've got some examples to show you. Nelson has a very big announcement. So Nelson, go ahead and bring everybody in. We're going to start with the design team.
Alrighty.
I want to hear Nelson's really big announcement.
Yeah, let's get announcements out of the way first.
He's going to stop drinking.
Huh?
Not.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Do I have a big announcement?
So you want... Dude, we just talked about it. Seriously.
I love these kind of announcements because it always is like, oh, you've got a big announcement. I do? No one told me.
Okay, here we go. Steve and I were talking as I got lost in the freaking woods and banjo players and werewolves were chasing me. We both agree it's time to crap or get off the pot. Everybody, and I'm guilty, just as guilty. Wow, World of Warcraft, wow, that's what we're going to create. Steve informed me, and I knew there's a lot of assets. There's like 1 million, zillion, trillion assets in WoW. We're not WoW. The only thing about WoW we have in common is possibly it's going to be in the third-person view. I'm done with WoW. Don't want to talk about WoW so much right now. The MODA, is that how I say it?
MOBA, Massive Online
MOBA,
Battle
yeah.
Arena.
That's what we're going. That's what I want. I want us to be able to... My goal today was to say what we need to do to have, and Steve's goal, because he actually thought about it, but I thought about the timeline. So I do want to give credit where credit's due, and if you hate the idea, it's Steve's fault, his problem. If you love the idea, I had lots to do with it. But I want to have, I want to have an arena, a very basic arena. I'm just talking a floor, a couple of rocks in there, maybe some walls, and some primitives that we can log into. We don't have to fight. We don't have to do any battles yet, but we can see each other and run around online where we're at all around in the world. It's time to crap or get off the pot. And then we can start talking about what assets we want. And we can start building up from there. But we better, by God, start having a framework. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels, and it's like taking your sister to prom. You're at prom, but it's not that fun, and it's kind of weird. Hoorah.
How did we just suddenly get over there?
I've kind of
baby,
sort of expecting Derek to, follow a train of logic.
I don't have a sister, but if I took her to prom, I think it'd be kind of weird, okay?
But yeah, NATO, I didn't get a chance to talk to you before the meeting about my thoughts on this, so Derek more or less threw my thoughts out there, and I'd like to have you weigh in since you're the lead on this.
Who was that laughing?
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll mute my mic. I'm really sorry.
Okay, but yeah, essentially, I'm trucking along with the design. I've started the actual game design document as its own thing. I'm very much looking at it as a kind of aid more for the programmers Nelson, to kind of look at it and see how everything fits together and how all the systems work, to try and get the thing off the ground kind of relatively quickly. Yeah, having a very basic system to work off, which we can then modify and change and test, is really a good idea.
This comes,
even
let
if
me
it's really
piggyback
simple.
on that. This is Nelson's announcement. Nelson, by next week, what are you going to have? Nelson, you
A
there?
hangover?
Well, I'm going to shoot for something to allow us to jump in on and play around with, so I can start teaching people how to, well, put that together once I figure out how exactly I can put that together myself.
Cool. I should try and, well, I'll try and get this kind of written up as much as I can, so you can take a look at it and see kind of my side of things, if that's useful to you.
Alright, probably not for a little bit. I'm just going to be focusing on primitives and stuff.
Cool.
Nelson, is it just going to be like movement and collision?
Yeah. Basically.
Okay.
Cool.
I'd like to have a chat about the camera system at some point then, just because the camera and control system has a few little details that I want to get in there. If that's cool with you.
Now, are you going to integrate the camera system from the last MMO that you guys made with Buzz and Lee and all that? Or are you guys going to rewrite everything, Nelson? Well,
He doesn't like talking to you, Derek.
I know, right?
Oh, whoops,
None
sorry,
of us like
I was
talking.
muted. It's not possible to repurpose what they had written.
That sucks. But that's okay. Everything will be ours, and we can start from the ground up. We can do that.
I'm sorry, Nelson, did you say you weren't able to repurpose it?
No.
Bummer.
That does stink. So with that said, Mr. Chris, what do you think the bare basic bone minimum that we need so we can start looking around? I mean, like a floor and a couple of walls and primitives, right? Just to show that we can do this.
Yeah, being able to log into a system and get into an environment where you can move around some kind of character, even if that's just an egg or a cube or a whatever, just as a proof of concept for that kind of the programming side of that.
Yeah, just the base functionality.
Yeah, yeah. Not even anything like an environment or rocks or anything like that. Just something where you can have multiple people in the same space running around.
I agree. And I also want to, again, piggyback on that. I was reading one of your posts today about, I just want WoW out of the picture, and I'm guilty as everybody. I want RP, I want story. Screw all that right now. This is going to be a battle arena, and what I think we can do with story and background is lean towards the comic book. That will give some background and lore. Let's have a screenshot. The Elysians, blah, blah, blah. The humans, blah, blah, blah. And they do battle here, blah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things that I'm leaning towards is leaving stubs in the design so that, it will work and it should be enjoyable and fun in it and of itself. But there are spaces you can add extra content in if we want it. Like this whole PvE side of things, it can be plugged into the core system if we want it to be, but it doesn't detract from the game not having it there.
I agree. Because we're not WoW. We don't have a zillion people and a $1 trillion budget to be working on this. And Steve hammered me in the head tonight. He's like, it's got to be simple. We got to produce. I'm tired of talking about it and not getting a lot done. We are getting some things done. We got a lot of story. We got a lot of concept art. We got some rock assets. At least we're working on that and coming together as a team. But I'm ready to move forward.
Indeed.
I heard someone go,
yeah. You heard me groaning. I'm fighting with a migraine.
I'm sorry. And yes, things you said several years ago. Yes, I do agree with you, Mr. I do have BuzzNet open. And sorry, I'm a little slow. I really thought, this would take off and we could do this. And I got all caught up in the story and all this concept art. And I loved it. I think they were great exercises. It's great for critical thinking as an artist. But it's time to also be very realistic and grounded in what we can and cannot do. Mm-hmm. And then, can you make or talk about your documentation that you're writing up right now? I mean, I know you want to talk to Nelson about it, but throw it out the team and share what you're writing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a first pass now, and it should be, yeah, tentatively should be ready by this time next week. If you want to switch to my screen, switch to my screen, I can sort of pass you through the doc.
That'd be great. Let me say okay. I said okay. Let me hit the button okay. Okay.
Okay, am I back?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I lose audio sometimes when that happens. So yeah, this is the document as it stands now. Table of contents page. As you can see, there are lots of different sections outlining all the different aspects of the game thus far. This is just what I've blocked out. There's probably going to be a lot more. I'll put this up online when it's done, rather than publishing it now so people can read through, because things are going to move, things are going to change. But I'm trying to write it in a very sort of straightforward, very simple statements that can be implemented in of themselves, and it's kind of almost a feature list in and of itself. I've also have these concepts of phases within kind of the initial concept. So as you can see here, under basic characters, obviously this is on top of getting a character in the world and being able to move around. That would be a sort of prototype phase. Phase 1 would be allowing players to create new characters. Those characters have a set of abilities. They have a set of attributes that control how powerful those abilities are. And it's all about kind of iterating the complexity up as we go, but having each sort of step, each phase in that process still be a playable game in and of itself. So yeah, just sort of going through all of the different sections, detailing things quite plainly, quite simply, and quite concisely. This document is also linked together with various different hyperlinks. As you can see, these are sections that I've yet to write. I'm also including things like this diagram here, which is this one in particular is a flow diagram of the logic a tower, which is a static defense, uses to choose which target it attacks. I don't know if Nelson is listening right now.
You
Yeah,
there,
I'm
Nelson?
listening. Yeah, so I just looked at your Skype thingy.
Yeah, okay. This is a slightly more detailed version of that I sent you there. Is this kind of thing useful to you, this kind of logic flow? Because I'll continue to do them if they are. If not, I'll
It will be
sort of
once we
refactor
get
that.
into NPCs.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, yeah, I'll carry on doing this kind of detail, because if it will be useful whenever, then it's good. It's also a nice way of kind of breaking down the text and making it less of a wall of text and more sort of interesting to read. I also, at the end of here, I have an appendix of definitions of terms used elsewhere. Some of these are defined in the sections that they're in. So this is kind of a
Nice
list,
job.
an end list, which partly comes from Iron Soul's idea. I wouldn't have thought to do this initially, but it's quite a good list, quite a good idea. So yeah, currently it's only 12 pages, but I'm trying to keep it quite concise and quite to the point, and covering only the core details, exactly what needs to be done and not necessarily the reason. In the concept document, I was very much adding kind of the reasoning and logic behind all the decisions. In sort of this game design document, I want to avoid that because it becomes difficult to read, and especially for a programmer trying to interpret this design into an actual product. I will, however, have an FAQ at the end in another appendix, which will define anywhere areas I think are slightly confusing logically. If I've made a choice that doesn't make any sense, or doesn't seem to make any sense, or if literally people read this and keep asking me, I'll add it to the FAQ list. So yeah, that's where that part of it is. And this isn't going too slowly. In my opinion, I'm taking my time to really think about how I'm phrasing things. I mean, obviously, I don't have sort of all the time in the world to just work on this one thing, but I'm kind of throwing as many hours as I can at it at the moment.
And don't get me wrong, Chris, I think you are doing outstanding work.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
So, and again, I really believe I'll take all the responsibility and fault. I've been doing that all week long, and I'm getting quite good at it. It's my fault for wanting to shoot so high that I was shooting all of us in the foot. And I know you said this 2 years ago, and I'm sorry it's taken so long to really understand, because I really wanted.
It's understandable though. It's understandable. I don't think until you kind of really focus on like the really, really in detail kind of implications of your decisions like that, it kind of it's difficult to see. I mean, it's a really, I don't want to say it's a rookie mistake because that's not quite right. It's a traditional kind of leap of understanding. Is that sort of things are a lot harder than you think they're going to be when you're developing a game. They'll take a lot more time and a lot more effort.
And I was still under the impression, because they did so much work on the first pass of this. I mean, the environments were kicking, they had models running around in there and attacks, and I know Buzz spent tons of time in working on, like, you know, your pouch. You can pick something up and it goes in there. I mean, I just really thought we could piggyback on all that and it would save so much time. And I was wrong.
Well, it's not so much that those systems take long to develop. In my opinion, obviously Nelson probably will disagree with me slightly there, but it's more the fact that if you set up a system like that, like the tech demo MMO that was made, you kind of imply you're going to have a lot of more content than you can actually produce, so the game ends up being very shallow. It might be enjoyable, but it might only be enjoyable for 10-15 minutes.
Gotcha.
Well, another issue, though, was a lot of things were not thought about during the initial development of the MMO tech. A lot of things as far as persistence or how a quest would be designed by a designer, or how objects maintain their state during server restarts, and you know, all that stuff wasn't taken into as much consideration as I've been giving it, because I don't want to build a tech demo then tear it down in you know, a year and do it again. That's already been done. So again, that's one of the reasons why it's been taking so long to put my side together.
Yeah.
Just do it right the first time, I agree, so you don't have to go back. You can just build on it.
Tech's difficult. It's not an area I have much experience with. Not that I have a massive experience in designing games, but still. So I think I was thinking about this earlier, like if you get the bare bones down, and you implement the kind of framework, and then you give someone like me access to it, and I know a bit of scripting, so all the creating of the characters, the character types, and all the character abilities, if the technical side of things is set up a system that I can gain access to and do it all without having to bother Nelson, then that really works in our favour, rather than me coming up with lots of different character types and then Nelson has to implement all of them himself. And I think it's that kind of logical leap that was missing from the first iteration of the MMO, and it's the kind of thing I think Nelson is more wanting to move towards. I think that's right, at least.
Well, I definitely think Nelson has an eye on a much bigger picture than, for what I've seen of the original iteration. I mean, they kind of came out of the gate like gangbusters running, but as Nelson said, a lot of things that should have been considered weren't. And that's probably why we can't port any of that over now.
Yeah, exactly.
Nelson, on that point, I mean, are you in this on your own, or is this going to turn into having other people that are helping code? What's the kind of game plan there?
I'm not sure. So far, I'm just on my own.
Yeah, this is kind of one of my points with setting up a framework that can get people, because I couldn't code like Nelson codes, core mechanics, but I can make I can script in Unity reasonably well. So if there's a framework for if there's a character class sort of modular system that I can script into that Nelson's made, I think it kind of speeds up the process a lot. But that's very much in the future. That's once but let's really get this prototype down and then kind of iterate on that.
I agree. Let's make one heck of a strong foundation.
And Nelson, will you be turning that back into an over-the-shoulder class then, or is this just outside of everything?
It's probably going to be, they're probably going to be recorded by me.
Recorded.
What does that mean? Because I have no idea.
It's kind of like a VTM. He'll just record what he's doing.
I thought it was a
Then
technical
edit out
term.
all the 20 minutes of swearing at the computer.
That's funny. It's something, I'm happy, Nelson. I'm proud of you. Steve and I know that you're doing so much there. I mean, you're being pulled in a zillion different directions, and we're going crazy. Like, hey, we need this, Buzz needs that, you need sleep. So I commend you for working really hard. I'm very excited and anxious for you to show us what you got next week. And I want you to utilize us in any way that we can help you, because we realize I confirm that you're the only person that can do this right now. And anything we can do to help, probably like to stay the hell out of your way and stop bugging me is probably be the biggest help. But if we can do anything else, I really want to be there for you. Man, Nelson is so brilliant and smart. His vocabulary is kicking, and I swear the last 2 nights of conversations have been like one-syllable words here and there. Yeah, okay. Not even okay, because that's 2 syllables.
He saves it for when it's worth it.
True. Yep. All right, so what is the next order of business here?
I don't know. That was my biggie. I figured I was going to get a lot of argument from people, so I was prepared for that.
All right, well,
The
let's
thing
do
is,
that.
there's only 7 of us in here, and that's
Yeah,
including Nelson and myself and Derek and Steve.
Yeah,
So
we don't
we're-
have a lot.
We
Really,
did have
Yeah.
a lot, and again, okay, I'm going to bitch about this. I got to get that banner. I know Steve's mailed it to you, Mr. Nelson. I want the comic book cup. I've got to get more people in here. Let's brainstorm about that for a second. How, or what do you think we can do to get more people interested in this project?
Well, for one, getting that beginning level up and saying, hey, this night we're all going to log in. We need 20 people. You'll be a untextured DEG running around, but you'll get to see the framework work. Actually showing progress will be the very best way to get more people involved.
I agree. And I hate that. This is going to take some more time.
Yeah.
How's and I seen the website that you were developing, and again, I don't want to put too much on your plate either, so we can put our assets and all that stuff. Or do we have any idea or plan? Because I know Angie wants it linked to 3D Buzz somehow, or have 3D Buzz host it. But once we get the level up, we have our assets and concept pieces up. It'll probably take a week to get everything to where it needs to go, and that's with like 8 hours a day. But I really want to make it shiny. I want to make it look good. And the faster we can do that, or should we just save it all to debut once we have it out? I mean, we could do that too.
Who are you talking to?
Probably myself. Anybody. Anybody wants to answer.
About the website.
I thought Chris was having the website so we could have all the assets uploaded on, all the concept art, the story. I know Mr. Ray was supposed to.
That was Nitro, not NATO.
Damn it! Darn it! Okay, we got to
he's
come
not
up.
here today, is he?
No, I don't see him here.
We've got to come up with a plan somehow to centralize in one location, make it look nice, easy to navigate, so we can direct people there. Because Steve and I were talking, I mean, we've got a ton of work in this already, and we're just now starting the design side, which is going to have a ton of the work soon. But if we can't showcase it, no one's going to know about it.
Nelson, does 3D Buzz have WordPress capability?
Yes, it has a WordPress blog on it.
Can we just back restore his website to 3D Buzz and transfer the domain?
But what? I don't understand what you're saying.
The website that Nitro built for the MMO.
I can look at doing something. I don't know. What are your I don't know what your guys' requirements are. I don't know what was built.
Oh, now I gotta try and find it.
It was a great idea, and it's a good site, and I haven't uploaded anything on it because I thought it needed to be finished first. But we could definitely start doing that. Again, you don't, like say Walmart, right? They have the greatest widget there, and it's super cheap, it's super cool and super awesome. But if you don't know about that widget that you really want, that's going to be fun, you're not going to go there to visit it and buy it and get it. And I think this is what's coming on here. We have a core class of great people, but we're not getting the word out. And again, I know this is all about 3D Buzz. This is Jason's baby, his site. Is there a way to reach out to other sites in connection and bring even more people in here and get them involved? Or would that be unethical? That's
Can
the
I just
struggle
ask
have.
a random tangential question?
Yes.
Has anyone actually spoken to Jason about the direction it's going in?
Not in a little
Away
while.
from WoW towards MOBA.
No, but when I did talk to him and WoW was used as a reference, it was used as a reference only in that third-person camera sense of the word.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
So, and yeah, I think that's where when I use that as a reference, a lot of people kind of took off with that. And yeah, Jason knows that cloning WoW is simply not possible.
So, and I do know this, and I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. I know Jason and Nelson are going to start recording some stuff pretty soon if they've not already done that, which is nice for all this. And I think once Jason gets back involved in some of the aspects of 3D Buzz and this, it's going to bring some more people back and get them more excited. Because, dude, I'm not Buzz. Nobody here can be Buzz. As much as talent we have, we don't have the name. I'm like, you know, there's real Fruit Loops that you can buy on the store shelves. I'm the bag that's cheap Fruit Loops. I can't be the name brand by any means. And I think that's one of the other things we're struggling with right now.
I can be Buzz. I took enough migraine medication to be buzzing right now.
Roger that. At the same time, I say this and trying to look at the positive side. This has been a struggle for all of us, and it's been frustrating in so many aspects. But once we get going, people are like, yeah, that Dirty Steve guy, he's awesome. And then the rest of us on the team will go, not really. But we won't say it out loud.
Yes, you will. I know how you are.
Probably so. So we have a plan. We got Nelson, who's going to be debuting a lot of cool stuff next week. Let's talk about the assets that we've already made. Do we need to continue to make rocks and stuff like that? Is it a good exercise? And we need another modeler in here that can take leads for that, because I think Iron Soul stopped. I don't think he's part of the team or part of a membership sponsor right now.
Yeah, I think he decided that it wasn't progressing at the kind of speed he needed to feel he could justify paying, which is completely understandable.
Yeah, I mean that's to each their own and what they can afford to do. So.
I mean, at the moment, we don't. I think as for sort of final models, we're not really at that point. If people want to make kind of test pieces or get practice or things like that, then that's all the power to everyone.
We may not end up using any of it at first, but once the framework for the game really starts to roll, honestly, the artists, if they're not already going, should get outrun pretty quickly, because some of that stuff really takes a long time to make.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
we
it would
don't
be
have a
nice
lot
that
of
if we
them.
could convert kind of the art style from drawings and sketches and whatnot to actual models with textures on them, just so we can get a sense of how that translates and how that actually kind of appears in 3D space.
Yeah, it would be nice just to have like a Unity level or something that we could load stuff into and everybody could see what it's looking like. But yeah, I would like to see people starting to model, just because eventually they're going to get outrun like crazy. Part-time, it can take weeks and weeks and weeks just to do one character.
I'm talking to Vincent right now about some stuff, and hopefully he'll get a member sponsorship, and I know he's interested. He's one hell of a great modeler. What's Vincent's screen name?
For
Raven.
what? Raven777 was his last name.
Trying to get him involved in the MMO art class. He's doing great at Maya, and his assets that I've seen him make, he's fast, he's great, he can teach, he could take lead with this no problem at all. So
Nelson, I threw that link up in BuzzNet for the website he built. I don't know if looking at it will help you know anything, but that's because I'm an art monkey, so what you gonna do?
are you going to throw poop? Because art monkeys do that.
I will. I'm willing.
Me too. Me too. So let's play devil's advocate for a minute, because I definitely want to see both sides. What arguments were you anticipating, Steve?
Just with the last couple meetings with the rest of the team, I was expecting everybody to kind of be stuck in the we have to have it's 17 characters and they all have to have 15 attributes, and not just please make me a cube that I can slide around on a floor in and just see the framework work. I just really thought I was gonna get some backlash to that. But I guess not. I guess we're all on the same page, so silly me.
Yeah, you just have to start somewhere and then build up from there. And there's a lot of testing that's going to have to go into this. I'm looking at this sort of design as I'm writing it and thinking, well, this is a potential, flashpoint that we need to kind of look at and focus on and really work out whether or not it sort of functions. I'm pretty happy with the standard mechanics because they are more or less standard MOBA mechanics like any other MOBA game, which in one way is really useful because we know it works and we know kind of where it falls apart and where we want to change it. But I don't know whether or not those changes will work until I actually see it kind of working. So yeah, there's a lot of balancing and adjustments to be made, but a lot of that is actually on the side of the character's design and the design of the abilities. I kind of see that as quite a fluid thing, rather than the core kind of system mechanics of how the actual game works in and of itself.
Yeah, actually changing attributes and stuff like that once we have those basics going shouldn't be nearly as difficult to deal with.
So basically my plan, and as screwed up as it was, I wanted to put the boat in the bottle through a little bitty hole instead of building it piece by piece. I was doing it back asswards, wasn't I?
Well, I'd say now we just want to build a tiny little boat, and then we're going to glue 2 halves of a plastic bottle around it later.
I can dig that.
It's just a case of approaching things in different ways and kind of working out how you want to do it. I mean, there are a couple of kind of game design added sayings, which are sort of typical of new designers. One of which is like, stories don't sell games. They don't, if your game is based on only solely trying to purvey a story, you're going to fail on gameplay. You won't actually have an enjoyable experience to play, no matter how good the story is. So it's the gameplay that carries games, not the story. And the other one is that, kind of, as I said before, that it's simple. It's just a matter of kind of opening up something like Maya or 3D Max and hitting the make it work button.
Do they
Which is not
implement
necessarily what I was saying that you were implying, Derek. It was more kind of, I don't know, not quite grasping the implications of the things that people were suggesting. And you're quite a positive guy, so if someone says, "Oh, I think we should have this in the game," I think your initial thought process is, "Yeah, that sounds amazing. We definitely should have that." And mine is immediately start thinking of the problems that causes, where it can fall apart, where it can break.
But we need that. We need to have that balance.
Chris is a downer like I am, Derek.
No, Chris, here's my analysis of Chris. A, he stays up really late because he's like 6 hours ahead of us right now. So he's willing to work, and that's awesome. I know he's a dreamer. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in this industry. And he's a realist, and he knows what he's talking about. And I have to bow down and submit myself to that because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm using my spider sense, like, oh, this tingles. That probably won't work. And Chris is like, no, dumbass, this really won't work. This is not doable right now. I'm a dreamer. I'm an artist, and I have these great ideas. But you know what? And at the end of the day, if I have a pile of poop in one hand and ideas and dreams in the other hand, I'll still have that pile of poop in my hand at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And Chris is a guy saying, dude, throw that away and wash your hand and let's make something good. I'm like, but I have dreams. And he's like, but you still have poop in the other hand. Keep hold of the dreams, but throw the poop away. I'm like, oh, I'm getting it now. I'm really getting it. Do you like my illustrations? Because I'm visual, and I'm actually holding my hands up. I'm like, I can see dreams in my right hand, a big pile of dookie in the other hand.
Yeah, I can see you just gesticulating at your monitor.
I am. I'm like looking at my yeah. I'm talking with my hands.
I got to tell you, Derek, after this last year, dealing with it with a migraine and on medication is a wholly different experience.
Really? A better one or a worse one?
Yes. I choose yes.
Yes is good. All right, so, man, we play the devil's advocate. I love your documentation. In a million years, I can't do that. I actually talked to my old boss today, Lieutenant Colonel Rusty Preston. He took me out to lunch and goes, listen, dude, because I love being around you. You're creative. He said, keep doing your creative thing because you're not a 9-to-5 guy. He said, you're not a paper pusher. And that's why I'm glad Chris is here. And for a certain part, Steve. So I feel a lot better about this tonight because I really feel that we're moving forward, and that is a good feeling because I've been down. Again, moving, no internet, crap is piling on top of crap and dreams in one hand. So that's enough pity and all that stuff of self-loathing. We're moving forward. Does anybody else in the design team have some other ideas? Oh, I'll shut up after this. How can we make our game different from League of Legends, or do you want to like clone that now?
Well, at the moment, in terms of core mechanics, I am kind of copying most of their mechanics. The way that I kind of want to try and make our game different is in League of Legends or Dota, there is a fixed list of characters that you choose from. Now, you don't get to customize them, you don't get to choose what they can do. They are the characters in the game. What I want to do is allow people to have their own characters, which they can customize in terms of their abilities, and possibly, maybe, depending on how it goes, this is a future plan, their appearance, in theory, so that they kind of own their character a lot more. They feel sort of more. They feel like they have more agency over the character. Again, in the long term, I'd like to link it to a world map, which players will fight over, and players will be able to, or factions will be able to own cities, which will give access to a limited number of quests and kind of out of match experiences. But again,
cool.
that's very much the future idea.
I have a question.
Yeah,
now,
I think for
again,
core mechanics, we probably don't really want to reinvent the wheel, do we?
No, I mean, one of the things that I want to modify slightly from LoL's mechanics is that League of Legends was designed to be a esport game. It was designed to be extremely competitive from the onset. Now, I'm not a great fan of that because it requires very, very, very tight programming and netcode, and I'm not saying Nelson can't do it. I'm just saying that he's one man, not like 25, 30 working for 2 years solid just on the netcode.
Yeah.
It's also not, I don't think, our style. I think we should go with slightly more laid back, slightly more focusing on the enjoyment, not the competitive nature. So I kind of want to slow the combat down. I want to make it more about having an interesting character and using that character in interesting ways rather than going for the really powerful build. Which
And I agree with that
in
wholeheartedly.
MOBA games, you try and minimize the idea of having one big powerful build anyway. It's all about having a meta game where if something is perceived as more powerful, then there will be something out there in the game which is naturally just a natural counter to that character. And once people work that out, then that character that seems overpowered will start to be played less as this other character who counters it is played more, etc., etc.
Yeah, people will tend to flow through character types.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's as you say. There's no point reinventing the wheel. Dota mechanics have kind of become their own genre, similar to like a first-person shooter or a real-time strategy. You wouldn't sort of try and redesign concept of aiming down scope in a character or going prone or looking around, leaning around corners. You may decide to remove some of those elements, or you might decide to add to them, like things like Crisis 2 brought in the idea of sliding your character along a surface, down a slope or along a surface while sort of crouched. But it's really a modification of the core mechanics of a first-person shooter.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with us scripting new stuff in later, but
Yeah, exactly.
how hard would this be? And again, being the dreamer, and I need you to be totally honest in reality. I don't know how you could implement this, and maybe they do.
it's utterly impossible.
I said Chris, not Dirty Steve. Because they have guilds in lots of games, and if you have a guild sort of setting, and as a team, you get X amount of points, and like you said, or we were talking about maybe city implementation about the other game. Say you have your core guild that you've built, you get X amount of points, and then you can start building towers, and the more points you have, the stronger the towers are, and then people can start fighting, guild versus guild, and can generate their own maps and have guild matches. Is that too much work? Is that way out there?
Up to the point of modifying the game map based on the abilities and the sort of power of each guild, that side of things would kind of break the mechanics, because it comes down to basically who has the most gold sort of situation. One of the benefits of MOBA gameplay is that everyone starts from basically the same point, and it's all about the strategy that you employ and how you use your character. And the idea of having guilds, I'm perfectly happy with. The idea of having guilds versus guilds, perfectly happy with. The idea of even having like a ranking system for which is the best guild on the server, again, perfectly happy with. That's not that design-wise difficult to implement. But yeah, having characters, like before we were talking about characters owning their own land, or guilds having their own land, that kind of thing I'd it's very, very far in the future. It's not even in my kind of sphere of thought at the moment.
Okay.
There is, in theory, nothing stopping you doing that, especially if we implement the idea of having these cities across a map that players flow between, because essentially each city would be an instance of an arena. Just the arena would be laid out very differently, because that's how I would imagine you'd do it. So you could have a guild area in a similar map fashion, which you could build your own structures in and kind of do things like that. But again, that's not. It's very much an additional thing to the game rather than like a core mechanic. So it's a much later thing. But it's something that's worth thinking about, yeah. I mean, one of the things I'd like to include, because I like economic systems and I like economic games, is having a system where you can collect resources, convert those resources into like materials which you can use to build items that you can sell to other characters. But that kind of system is so... it can fit in this kind of MOBA MMO crossover concept, but it's kind of like so many iterations ahead that it's not even worth thinking about at the moment. But yeah, I'm keeping a list kind of in my head of all the sort of odd little interesting cool things that we could do with the game once we have the core MOBA system down and pretty tight and playable, and we have a few more characters than the initial ones that we've kind of just need to test it. But we may not get there, we may do, we'll have to see.
Well, I'm glad we had this big boy discussion tonight. And everybody who's listening to this, know it's I don't want to say do or die, but it's time, like I said, to crap or get off the pot. We're all on the same page finally, and I'm the last one that came kicking and screaming and all that. And once Mr. Ray gets all moved into his new abode, that will go full tilt on the comic book as well. And Nelson, I'm hoping by the end of next week that will be up and running. So that's food for thought. It's 9:57 my time. I'm not for sure where the time is at your place. Let's go ahead and take 7 minutes, come back, and we're going to discuss the art style that we're going to use. We've nailed it down tonight. I like it. It's very exaggerated, elongated, along kind of the lines of the new Tron cartoon. And I think it will be fun to model, easier to model than my American Fusion style. And once textures get on it, we're going to have a very unique look. So with that said, let's go ahead and take 7 minutes. Go ahead and take my screen too real quick. Hey, we're back. Welcome back, everybody. This is Derek Stevens. I'm the Crow on 3D Buzz, do the Crow's Nest daily drops, practically daily, and I hope you guys are enjoying that. This is the MMO art class. We talked a lot about design, got some great ideas, pushing with a definite direction. This is just something I was playing around with, trying to impress Mr. Steve with environment stuff. There you go, Steve.
Very nice.
Really?
Look at you go with the textures.
I'm trying, you know, just branching out, because all I'm doing right now is pure manga stuff, which I do like, and tones and stuff. And that kind of leads us into what we're going to talk about, the art stuff. I am going to vote yes for this art style, but I need everyone else to say yes. This is a style that is vastly different from what we've done before. Instead of all this detail, it's very cartoony, it's very exaggerated. The Alethians are a little bit taller than the humans. We've got the human female, the human male there. So it's not like Avatar, because I really want to stay away from that crap where the Alethians are super, super tall and the humans are itty bitty. But this is what I'm leaning towards, and I want to see what you guys think. Again, they're elongated, they're exaggerated, and real quick look of an Alethian front and male soldier dude, and with textures, I mean, we can put all this detail in here, so we can have super low poly characters, but the texturing make them look really, really good. So what are you guys' thoughts on this?
Where's the fat dwarf?
I think your Alethian male T-pose, I think he's a bit too spindly for my liking. I think he sort of needs to be a bit bulked out. And also, if you focus back on the top set, yeah, I can see your first, the one on the left there.
Mhm.
The sort of human soldier, I think that is.
Yes.
I can tell that you drew that at a different resolution and you stretched it out.
I did. Sorry about that. I'm like, okay. I forgot to hit my shift button down.
It's a pet peeve of mine. That's all.
It's a pet
I
peeve
quite
of
like.
my wife too. She's like, stop doing that crap. I literally listen. I got lost on the way back home. I thought a banjo player or a werewolf was going to get me. I had 30 minutes to get everything together, and I had kind of the Alethean done and one of the
Yeah,
faces.
it's cool.
Like,
It's cool.
I apologize, but this simplified cartoony look is what I'm trying to convey. Would you guys?
Yeah, I like the one on the right. The kind of proportions of that are quite good.
Okay.
And you're conveying quite a lot of characterization through just like the pose and the very sort of simple clothing that's there. I'd like to
Take
see
boobies.
someone trying to convert that style into an actual model at some point. Not rigging it up, not just a simple model. I mean, I'm terrible at anything organic, so don't ask me. I can do rocks, I can do buildings, I can just about do trees, but I can't do people.
You can just about do trees. I saw those oaks.
Yeah, they were ridiculously high poly for what they were. It's more the textures than the actual trees, but.
Mr. J, what do you think about this? Because I mean, ideally, you're the guy leading everything. I'm interested to hear your thought process and see.
I like it, and now that I know you're using the Tron cartoon as a reference, kind of, I think it'd be an easy style to duplicate. Yeah, I like it, and I'll try to get a model done because I can actually do that if there's someone else that can. It's just going to be at least 2 weeks before I get it done.
Cool. Hells yeah.
I like the style. The only thing I will say is they are all very skinny and tall, and I would like to see some varying silhouettes.
Yeah, that's important to me too. Keep in mind when you're doing these that you definitely want them to be able to pick out what a character's class is by their appearance at not very much notice, sort of very quite quickly, and that really reads through from silhouette rather than details. I mean, color as well, but that's more of a kind of a.
It would probably help if we could like nail down 2 classes we're going to do, or 2 or 3, just so we can do different silhouettes for those classes.
Yeah,
we know what we're going to do.
Having a basic melee tank, having a ranged like a mage.
Yeah, I know everybody was big on avoiding the Trinity, but I really think that that's a very fine place to start, at least in terms of art.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they are the basic standard RPG models. When you break down what a party almost needs to sustain themselves, what a team needs to sustain themselves, you need someone who can block damage, you need someone who can heal, you need someone who can do damage. Now, how you exactly define those is another matter. You can do hybrids, you can do all sorts of weird mixes and matches of things. So yeah, but a melee tank, some kind of ranged damager, whether that's a mage or a sniper or something like that, or a soldier, and then some kind of healing character, some kind of support character, whether that's, as I said, a healer like a medic or a priest type thing, or a character that controls other characters, like someone came up with the idea of a sapper or a hacking character, something like that, or again another kind of mage, I guess. Aletheans are I find them a little difficult to design around, because as much as there is already there isn't much kind of in-depth about the variation of what people in the world do.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to get like 1 of each of those done by next week.
Yeah. I mean, it's not vital. It's sort of an ongoing thing, but it would be nice to see how well this style translates into models.
Oh yeah, I won't do the models. I'm going to do concepts before I do the models. Just
Oh yeah,
so
that, yeah.
on that. So I'll try to have my drawings done by next week.
Basically, Derek, on that other page, You could sell me that any one of those three is DPS or healer. You couldn't sell me that any of them are a tank.
No, I totally agree. And with talking about the Alethian things, because the way we have been drawing them, they have been long and spindly. I like what I'm going to do next week is in this style, come up with some Alethian tanks and just make their shoulders super broad, almost like a gorilla, really top heavy, and then again bring the skinniness down through the waist and maybe some shorter legs, but again making them stocky and super big so I can sell that, or we can sell that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to go into full-blown cartoon, but we certainly want to go into exaggeration.
You can even give them like exaggerated like chunky armor style
Yes.
gear instead of just making them broader themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I had
True that.
an idea for a character type quite a while back when we were still thinking this is a sort of a PvE thing, of having some kind of ranged tank, which essentially is just a giant suit of armor with a huge, great big shield that they just put in front of bullets and put themselves between the people who are doing damage and whatever's shooting at them.
Walking cover,
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how I'd convert that into a like MOBA character. I guess it would all be about extending armor to other characters, and yeah, I don't know. That's an
You can
interesting
make
one.
a class going along with that, almost like a healer, but you do it from range where you're basically putting buffs on people.
Yeah,
Here's a shield buff, here's a shield buff, and here's a healing buff, and here's a speed
exactly.
buff. 2 times damage, and then I would target that son of a buckaroo first. Like, stop that facade.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, this is one of the reasons why I was asking people to come up with character types. I mean, I know in hindsight that wasn't the most clear thing, but
I think we did
it's
get some
mostly on the
useful
it's mostly on the Alethian side. Like, I don't know. Like, I have a relatively kind of strong idea of how the humans are, sort of, kind of. They're a sort of standard, because we're human. We can imagine what humans would
Right.
have. We've read lots and lots of sci-fi with humans in the future. So again, I can imagine what humans might have. I have not got much idea what the Alethians can do, other than they're kind of analogous to mages of some description. I'd quite like to see Alethians sans magic, so no magic Alethians. Not that they don't use magic, but they're not mages.
Right, they utilize the crystals that give them power.
So either that or just use simple weapons and are skilled in sort of like, I don't quite know how ingrained the use of these crystals are.
Well,
Like, I don't know how a ranged non-magic character would work, like an archer or something.
Well, that's the sample or example I was going to give you. So you have an archer. Have you ever seen the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, Hank the Ranger? You basically have this wooden, bow, and as you pull it back, the crystal gives the bow its magical essence, and it just shoots out these magic laser bolts.
Okay.
So they can still shoot lasers and keep up with the humans, because I can't justify just little bitty arrows penetrating like mechs if we do that later on, or high-tech armor. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Or you could even do something like a Gambit character where they pick up rocks and they like infuse them with crystal like power stuff, so the rocks explode when they hit targets or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's really the line they were going down, is they manipulate energy through the crystals, and although the tech can look old, it reacts like sci-fi tech would.
All right, cool. Well, we're quite way off actual coming up with character type, character classes in of themselves, but I'd still like to build that list of character types up a bit more. It gives me a good idea of what people want, including horrendous feedback, apparently.
Sorry to say, is someone shaving? Does any of the artists here, Captain Ron, you got anything you can show us? Captain Ron, you muted.
Actually, I don't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great, I just muted myself.
We can hear you still.
All right, awesome. No, I really don't have anything to show you guys yet again. I'm really sorry. I just kind of got discouraged with all the litigation that was going on, and to come here tonight and to hear that, you know, we're pretty much going to end the litigation and move forward with actual construct. I will tonight get back in Blender. I'll create some concept models along with a rock, and I guess I'll just take it from there.
No,
I
are you
really don't
comfortable
know.
modeling one of these guys out? I mean, in a T-pose like this, do you have the ability, skill set?
It might not look exactly like that, but I'm pretty sure I could get it pretty close. I had a character that I was working on a while ago, and it really, doing characters really doesn't seem all that easy. It's just setting up armatures. I don't really have much experience in doing that, but then again, 3D Buzz is basically a library of knowledge, so.
That is true. And we can make the dude naked. That's fine with me. We don't have to put any armors and stuff like that or weapons. Just
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, when I make a character, I make them anatomically correct. I just go all out, you know. I'm kidding.
you can tell. I was starting to say we don't want to see his junk.
Now wait a minute. I said anatomically correct. All right, no, it's all good. You see, here's the thing. Like when we start talking about like clothes and armor and stuff, this is one area of confusion that I have. Now, is the model a silhouette of clothing and armor, as if to say that it's all one giant piece, or are these things that we add to it? So like pants would be a separate model, the shirt would be a separate model, so on and so forth. Is that how this works?
Initially, it will all be one model. So you would just model a character wearing what armor they'd be wearing. In the far, far future, when we have little else to do, which will never come, but we'll just let you know that now, having sort of base models you can modify, so you can modify the appearance of your character, you can decide what they're wearing, is a possible option. It's much more likely, however, that we would have simple recolors of character skins, so you could change like the color of your character's armor or something like that, rather than change the appearance of the armor from a kind of basic level.
Okay.
So aim for silhouetting based on characters wearing their armor and equipment and stuff.
Yeah,
Sounds.
if you were sculpting it, you would sculpt the clothes right to them.
So we're not going to parent anything. Is that what you're saying? Because I was confused. I thought, okay, we're going to do the skinny model or the naked model, and then we'll do the separate geometry for like the shoulder pads that I just drew, and that will be parented to that shoulder. And then, you know, the wrist bracers, that will be parented to the wrist bone.
If we reach some level of success, then that will become true. But
Okay.
for the moment, no.
Potentially.
Yeah.
One of the problems with that method is that it has a lot of overhead in terms of polygons that we can basically just do away with early on. You also get into a problem with animation. If you rig a character and skin it and then animate that, if you have kind of bits of geometry parented to other bits of geometry that aren't connected to the entire thing, I don't know a lot about rigging and skinning, but I suspect that could cause problems if pretty much all the clothing was like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have, especially like with like that huge shoulder arm you have, you can start to have, like if he's got gauntlets on his forearms or something, you can start to have that geometry mashed together because it wasn't there when his elbow movement was rigged.
Gotcha. Penetration, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas you would, if it, you know, in the standard kind of you're modeling it as one model, you would rig the shoulder piece into the shoulder as if it was just his body, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then
Which
like
is an abstraction.
Well, it's got to move. It's got to
an abstraction you have to use, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
and like the little wrist bracelet on his, it would be his left hand. That can be handled by textures.
Yeah.
The stuff on his chest is all textured. The knee
But you
bracelet.
still would want to give that some dimension. So basically, like what I was saying was like pants, shirts, and or whatever. I mean, that would just basically be an extrusion of those normals to give it just that little bit of depth. But see,
Right.
now here's another question, because something that we learn about when we start messing around with multi-resolution is that sometimes we have to give it, say on an edge, that extra piece of detail to make that edge just maybe a little bit sharper, maybe a little bit duller. How much is that going to hurt us? And is that even anything that we need to practice when we start talking about modeling? I mean, do I have to add in that extra detail to make some edges look sharp? I mean, because that'll probably kill us on polys right there.
Well, a lot of times when you're adding in those extra edges, it's because you're using smoothing groups heavily. And if we're...
Or like a turbo smooth or a NURB smooth, which you kind of want to stay away from. Well, no, on character model, I don't know. Not
But
particularly
yeah, I
character
mean,
models.
for an MMO type, these are going to be pretty low poly. I was looking the other day, and there's almost nothing. I know I hate to bring it up, but like in World of Warcraft, there's almost nothing over 500 polys.
Yeah, a good source of information, if you want to take a look, is Dota, which is on Steam. They have a system where you can make extra kind of models to go on characters. They have a guideline of how many polys those should be, and I would imagine if you take that and then take it down by 10% to give us sort of a bit more space, because Unity isn't as kind of... Actually, no, I don't know. But yeah, sorry, that's a ballpark figure. I'll see if I can find that now.
So basically then, to keep it low poly, we want to stay away from any kind of modifier that would modify the surface from the original amount of polys that we are using to design the character.
Yeah, largely any extra detail we'll be trying to do with normal creation.
Like static objects?
Even on characters, like we may build a really high poly one and bake the normals from that onto a very low poly and give the appearance of an edge being there, even if there really isn't one.
Okay, you know what? We're gonna have, you guys are gonna have to do a video on something like that, because I've heard this mentioned like a few times, and it's totally foreign to me. I have no idea what you're saying, but it sounds awesome.
Sorry, what were you saying? Sorry, I was looking something up.
He was asking about avoiding modeling those edges altogether, and I just said that largely for some of that stuff, we'll try to create as much of that, as
What
much of that
variable
look
that?
as we can with normals
Yeah, that's not
by creating high polys and then baking the normals down to a low poly mesh. And he has not seen that done, so he kind of doesn't know what I'm talking about. But
okay, cool. Well, if you
and
look
Ron
on,
works in Blender, so I don't know how to explain it to him because I don't use Blender.
Yeah,
no,
and Zach is gone. He's off to Epic Games now, so I mean, you know, I'm kind of all back up in the air again. I only have so much information to work from.
I do know that Blender now has a sculpting function.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
always had the
I-
sculpting function.
not great.
Yeah, but they've made it much more robust lately, haven't they? I thought I read somewhere that they
haven't
made it a
used
lot
in
more
years.
robust.
I've just been concentrating on the form of box modeling,
But-
so that I could try to control the amount of detail that I have.
Essentially what
For
you do is you
reference.
create a very basic box model, and then you would bring that into your sculpting and sculpt that into a really high poly model. And
Okay.
then you will tell it to bake the maps from that high poly model back onto your original low poly one. So your low polys don't change, but you get all the normal mapping that gives the illusion of that detail.
Okay.
And
Okay.
a very basic description, that's how it works.
Yeah, it can be
Um,
kind of difficult to get your head around it if you've never seen it done before. It's not something I do because I find it really tricky. I've done it on a couple of occasions and it's not really worked out well. People use this method a lot with ZBrush.
Yeah, ZBrush and Mudbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it with some environmental stuff like rocks with Mudbox. I have not done it with character creation, so
No.
we're all going to be learning.
For reference, I have linked something in BuzzNet, which is the Dota 2 Workshop requirements page, which essentially gives you access to kind of their suggested. They have all their different characters. They have there's over 100 characters on there. Just select any of them really, and it will give you a kind of item slot budget, which is the number of polys they suggest for several levels of details and whatnot for various individual characters. It will also allow you to download the base model for that character. So if you want to actually have a look at how Valve have put together MOBA style characters for their game, you can download them and open them up in something like 3D Max. I think they're FBX. And you can do that for free, which is really awesome of them. Obviously you can't use the same models anywhere else. But yeah, it's definitely worth a look if you want to get a sense of the polys, number of polys, because it's all based on their source engine, which is now quite old. So realistically, Unity should be able to handle very much similar.
Let me take a look at that link real quick, and I'll put it on my screen. Let me find where
Yep.
3D Buzz is at. Where you at? BuzzNet. We can kind of all get together and look.
Oh, and Ron, Ray sent me something the other day that said, I don't know if it's the next version coming out or this latest version of Blender will have both FBX import and export. So
Okay, and that's for Max, right?
yeah, FBX was an Autodesk thing, but that'll allow you to go back and forth with any of us that are using Max or Maya. And
Okay, that'll be awesome because, you know, quite honestly, and I know everybody's going to feel the same way, but having Max and Maya as like your main filters for any other programs that we would be using to model. So yeah, I mean, that really helps out a lot. But at the same time, I mean, it's kind of like if I was trying to do something on the side, like if I was using Sandbox, I mean, I would ultimately have to download a trial of 3ds Max to filter it, huh? I wouldn't be able to use Blender to just throw my models in and out of the editors, could I?
I believe Blender can import FBX right now, but it can't export.
I'm sure there's a plugin somewhere.
But yeah, I'm sure somebody's made a plugin that'll let you run them back and forth.
Also,
But,
for just a note to Derek.
Yes.
If you look at because you can download, as I said, you can download their models and open them up in something like 3D
Right.
Max. The method they use for their modeling is very similar to what you were suggesting. So they model a base character naked, and then they model all the attachments. Now they do this because they always initially wanted to have this concept of users creating items that they could put onto characters. So the method you were talking about is possible, but it requires a lot more work to implement, and you kind of have to have a very good reason to do so.
Yeah, I'm not really looking to deal with a bunch of programs. I want to keep it as simple as possible.
Well, we'll have to see.
Now, they mentioned triangles. Now, even Max and Maya, along with Blender, do quads. So, are we saying that there's, you know, for ARMS, there's 300 quads?
Polys, kind of, it doesn't massively matter, the variation between whether they're tris or quadrilateral polys at this scale. I mean, one of their standard models here that I just opened is about 4.3 polys.
Hey, Mr. Nelson, take
And it's
Chris's screen because it's going to be a while for mine downloads. Can you do that? Thank you, sir.
But yeah, Rana, in general, if you see 1,000 tries listed, if you're used to quad modeling, then cut that in
Nice.
half. That's what they're working with.
That's what I
this
figured.
is
Okay.
But as you can see, I mean, that's fairly detailed, and that's not particularly high poly.
Yeah, no,
It's,
exactly. I mean, they have like only a
5,000.
few polys on there. If I had done this thing would be covered. I mean, it would look
Yeah.
ridiculous.
But they have a variation of triangles and quad meshes dependent on area. As you can see, the face has a lot of detail in it. I think that's mainly because they project the same face model onto the HUD for when, because it's like a World of Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3 StarCraft style HUD, so you have an image of the character on your HUD, and it animates and talks to you and stuff. So they put a lot of detail into the faces, which we wouldn't necessarily have to do.
Well, but
it's all
also, I
kind
mean,
of
their mouths and eyes and stuff
topographized.
are animated, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to say
Yeah.
it's all topographized so that
Yeah,
it can
they
be easily animated. You
apologized.
don't necessarily have to do that.
I
There's
still
also
want
things like
back in 3D.
if you look at this section here, obviously on the final model they wouldn't have big square sections that are textured. They've obviously used an alpha channel on the texture they've applied to this item.
Yeah, that's probably
and extra
jewelry
detail
or
around.
something hanging around it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I try and find a see if I can find them. Oh, that's a. Trying to find a quick picture of this character. Oh, this will do.
So you know when you looked at the hind on the
Yeah, as you can see here, all the detail on that skirt is kind of alphaed in.
Yeah, that's all done with texture.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good. And like you said, this will give us an idea for our modelers for poly counts.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we can do a test and see if it can get in game and it can run and make it nice and smooth.
There's also something I saw on the
This sort of
forums.
scale, I'm surprised.
There's also something I saw where they were talking about mirroring like their base character model and then adding some items to like break up the symmetry. We might want to think about actually tacking stuff on, just because that will actually end up saving polys if we tack like low poly items, like even like a weird beard or something onto a character after we do symmetry.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. But in terms of like a modeling process, I think keeping it to modeling characters with clothing on is the
It's the way
Yeah.
to go.
okay.
Yeah, you do half a character with the clothing on, then you add like 1 or 2 items of clothing to break stuff
Yeah.
up or hair.
Yeah,
Now-
to break up the symmetry.
On symmetry, I noticed that when you can visually see the edges on this character here, and you go around and you look at her hind side, you notice that some of the edges are dying into a vertex. Am I allowed to do that? I mean, I was under the impression that things had to go all the way around and meet back up with each other.
Well, there is, I mean, obviously there's lots of helpers on this, so you can't see very easily. You wouldn't necessarily be viewing the character from kind of really quite close up.
I meant
in
just
Dota.
for a modeling method, what I can and can't get away with when it concerns edges and symmetry, because Zach always made this like very clear that symmetry is very, very important. So when if you turn her just a little bit, you'll see right here, just above the stomach where it dies into the back leg, it dies into one quad. So you have a set of 3 triangles right there, but then it dies into a quad, which eventually follows it all the way down to the bottom of the foot. Am I
those are
allowed
actually-
to do that stuff?
Those are fine, you just have to be really careful where you put them. You need to make sure that your edges like flow together to make those triangles, those pinches is what my teacher called them. You need to make sure those pinch points are someplace that won't get animated or that won't move very much.
Okay.
Either that or you need it to be someplace like at a joint, like the elbow, and you need to make sure it's whatever will be poking out. That way, if you do have weird geometry stuff, it'll just look like the elbow is bulging out when the joint moves.
Okay.
Good. Listen to us, man. We're like getting our stuff together. This is awesome. Does any more artists have anything they want to go over or look at tonight?
I got the 2 rocks I did.
Well, let me see your rocks, baby. Get your rocks off. Never mind, it's bad. It's a song.
This guy's a terrible influence.
Mr. J or me?
All of you. I'll just go for all of you. All of you are terrible influence.
We aim to please.
All Steve's fault. Man, I want back into 3D so bad, Steve.
That is a very nice base mesh right there.
Yes, it is.
That is really good topology.
Now, these models you rip off there or download, not rip off. Are you able to animate their models and stuff, or?
I'm not sure. It's giving me a bunch of errors when I import them. There are a load of bones in there already, but I think this is specifically designed to be a reference rather than
Something to use. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it's got some automatic rigging in there.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, they're free to download, so you can just give them a go yourself.
Can we take Mr. J's screen, please, Mr. Nelson?
It won't take long. So since we're talking about doing like hand-painted textures, like that's a hand-painted rock, I literally just swiped the painting from that landscape I did and made it gray. Nice. So
Time is
like
money. Good job.
So I was just trying to like do something that would show brush strokes in the rock and create the rock texture out of brush strokes kind of thing. It's obviously not perfect, but I think it gets the idea across. Like,
Not bad.
I think that might be a better angle for it.
That's not bad. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah. It needs a bit of tweaking, but it's quite good, yeah.
And it's one of those things that's easy to fix. If I had done it right and not messed up the UVs, I actually scaled those like not proportionally,
Yeah.
which threw me off, and then I messed up some of this seamless stuff. But it's really easy to do because instead of having to work hard to make everything blend together, you just grab the smudge tool and smudge the brush strokes together.
Yeah, and especially if you've got all your seams at the bottom of the mesh, that's probably going to be buried in the ground anyway. How much does it actually matter?
Oh yeah, and at the distance we're looking at, I mean, honestly, if there's a seam here and a seam there, nobody will notice.
Yeah, I mean, there's best working practice, and then there's what gets it done to a certain degree.
Yep.
Yep, okay. But that's kind of what I'm thinking we should do for at least environmental assets, is just sort of hand paint them sort of rough and then sort of smudge them up so it looks decent.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to get a model done and see what you guys do with texturing, because I think that is what's going to be the defining style for the game, is how we deal with the textures and the models.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I could even do a quick tutorial on how to do this, and since like the painting stuff is really easy, like I did it with a mouse, like I used to do it with a mouse, like it's just draw lines and then sort of smudge them together till it looks right.
Yeah.
I like the
A
way you
while
think.
back, there was the, I think it was Steve posted a thread for potential texture.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I did was put together a sort of cracked earth style ground texture, which it took a couple of hours, and it also had to do a couple of passes to get it looking right. But it was just sort of hand painted in Photoshop with a graphics tablet over a couple of hours.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think everyone knows what the, I can't remember the name of the modifier. Let me look it up real quick. The,
The offset?
The offset, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't sure if people were using that, but even if somebody just wants to paint something that they think looks cool, it's fairly easy to turn it into something tileable to use someplace else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good. We got a lot accomplished tonight, guys. We got the defined art style. I would come up with the tank Lethean look, because I think it's one of the only things that I've been struggling with, honestly, is what the hell is the tank going to look like. Mr. J, what will you be doing next week?
I was gonna try to do a couple rough character sketches just to get the cartoony style down for like either humans or something. Basically the same thing you're doing, but I'm gonna do it so I can model off of it for the week after.
Roger that. Mr. Steve, are you able to do anything for environments?
Yeah, what would you like me to do? Do you want me to do some concepts, or do you want me to actually try and make something?
Well, yeah, it's up to you. Basically, I know you well enough now to know that you can build anything in 3Ds that you need, and it may just be quicker to throw something together in a program for a small arena that you have an idea on, so you can move it around and get better angles, than to mess around with brushing and Photoshop and all that. Whatever's easiest, I'd say.
Chris, did he just tell me to build an arena by next week? Is that what I heard?
You know,
It sounds reasonable to me.
I mean, I guess just kind of do whatever comes to mind.
Derek didn't say it had to be a good arena.
It'll look like Ringling Brothers. I'll just build a little cylinder with a circle. There you go. It's an arena.
I'm not saying a finished arena by any means, but, you know, just some cool looking stuff. Some little, here's a column. It doesn't have to be textured or anything. It's basically placeholders where you think, frickin' arena, dude, come on.
God, I hate you.
Yeah, but
Well, it's placeholder, so you could just make a whole bunch of cylinders and be like, look how awesome I am.
Yeah, there you go. Cylinders, squares, and spears.
Look at this. I'm going to submit my application to Epic Games too.
Well, if you're going that far, you might as well add some teapots. I mean, those are
Yeah, that's pretty, those are hard to model.
Well, to be fair, it needs a normal map and it needs to be about 300 times more shiny and, brown.
That's true.
wow.
Although, have you seen
Fortnite?
Fortnite? Fortnite is really, really different. Actually, Fortnite might be a good source for inspiration for art side.
I'll look it up here in a minute. Well, everybody dissed me. What the crap's up with that? Again, poop in one hand, dreams in the other hand. And I think he just took the poop hand and smeared it all over my face.
Might be better than smearing it all over your dream hand.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah, if you just Google Fortnite, which is spelled slightly oddly, and the
Oh yeah, Epic Games Fortnite. Look at that. There it is.
yeah, it's very different style. It's the first Unreal Engine 4 stuff that they've shown. That's not
Oh, it's
like,
that game. Okay, yeah.
yeah. It's kind of the gameplay is kind of a mixture between, also I'm led to believe, like Left 4 Dead and Minecraft. So you go around and during the day collecting resources to build a structure to survive the night as you get attacked by like gremlin and zombie things. I don't think it has a release date currently. But the art style's really unique. And really
Yeah, I've
different
typed in
compared to,
Fortnite. I got lingerie. What the hell are we talking about here?
It's Fortnite. There's a
Oh, okay.
it's spelled oddly for no real reason.
I should probably turn your safe search on too, Derek.
I live dangerously.
Especially with your history.
Yeah, oh, there's some PAX gameplay. Not seen that yet. It says the release date is 2013, but I haven't actually seen enough to really believe 2013 is going to actually happen. But we'll see.
Huh,
I like that cartoon.
Trailer's
art.
pretty good.
I had no idea Epic was doing this.
Yeah, it's kind of like Cliffy B's. This is like the last thing he started before he left, and it's a real departure from the Gears of War, UT3, big men with lots of muscles in a brown environment kind of thing. Because they got really, really like stereotyped for that.
Well, yeah, every game they made looked the same.
Yeah, exactly. So this is really think this is an attempt to branch out a bit more, and it seems to, the graphic style at least seems really quite unique and really quite nice. But I'm not sure how the gameplay is going to end up. But we'll see. We'll see.
Exciting. Well, we got a lot accomplished. We got our assignments. Steve, I didn't ask for 2 arenas. I only asked for 1, so please keep that in mind. A good thing that
He's saying to a guy who's never ever played a MOBA and has no idea what arena should even be like.
Hey, he's not alone. I'm not all about WoW. I think that stuff should be like locked away and the people put in rehab because it's been out of touch for life for just so long.
Basically, with a MOBA, you can make the arena whatever you want, as long as you can explain it.
There is kind of a design logic to it, but
Yeah.
Appearance-wise, it can just be really whatever. And at this stage, all we need to be able to do is run around in an environment. So go nuts.
Yeah. They're generally like symmetrical between sides, so
Yeah.
and they're generally bigger, but that's just because you have like basically non-player characters wandering around like in long lines that you have to kill.
So is a MOBA arena really not that much different than like an online multiplayer FPS map where they're kind of
It's
symmetrical?
kind of
Or
more like a
confined.
chessboard. It's more like a chessboard.
Yeah, it's like more perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah, it's all designed
But-
around giving each team the opportunity to use strategy rather than to use the map's advantages against each other, like you would find in a first-person shooter or something.
All right, so completely symmetrical. I can deal with that.
Like you can use like variations. Like if you have a tree blocking one side, you can have like a building or a post blocking the other. But like,
Yeah,
the
but-
actual
I
passive
hide in a
move-
bush and snipe somebody out, man.
Captain Ron. Captain Ron, do you have the munchies?
No, not today. I'm 100% here, and that's the problem.
That's awesome. A good source of, and again, I'm ashamed I've not read this before. Technically, I still didn't read it, but I did listen to Ender's Shadow, Ender's Game, and now I'm on Ender's Exile, whatever. And the arena
Really
ideas,
need to read those.
the idea of what they put those kids through with their basically battle arenas, it was just amazing how they pushed this kid and pushed him and broke him down. Great books. And again, with Ender's Shadow, they talk about a character named Bean. He's a little kid on the street, and this girl that took him into her crew said, "You're dumb, you're stupid, you're not even worth a bean." That's how he got his name. The kid is brilliant, and you'll find out why. So if you read Ender's Game first, that's great. But you don't have to. I actually listened to it
Ender's.
before. Yeah,
Hideo
Ender's.
Kojima. Didn't he do the games? Yeah.
Yeah, great. And then Ender's Shadow is a story from Bean's perspective, but it also, you get to see more of Ender's Game. It's great books, great books, and it just made me think of the Battle Arena. And then now the new movie's coming out soon. I'm anxious for that as well. So
Yeah, that's
Google it. I listened to it for
relatively
free.
soon, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, Harrison Ford is going to be a sweet Colonel Graf.
Yeah.
So on the topic of battle arenas, just so that I can throw this out there, are any of you guys familiar with Monday Night Combat?
Yes, from the makers of, from Uber Entertainment, which also are currently making Planetary Annihilation. It is very similar. It's like a proto-MOBA first-person thing. It's worth taking a look at.
Monday Night Combat?
Monday
I think
Night
the
Combat, you have like this huge arena and you got like 4 different character types, and as you play you kind of earn some points that will allow you to purchase upgrades for your character. It's not a whole lot. I think it's It's 8 total. And you have this huge arena. It's like this big game arena. You got like an audience and everybody's cheering you on, and meanwhile you got people coming at you trying to kill you and stuff. It's great. And they have like this little what do you call them? Anyway, there's like this little mascot that runs around, and he's like flinging money out, and you got to go and shoot this dude and take all of his cash. And they have like this, the objective is to destroy their money ball. So each side has a money ball, and both sides are going to the opposite side to take it down. And you can spawn some NPCs to go over and kind of help push either the opposition back or help you fight your way through to your objective. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a good, for like maybe a good 30 minutes of gameplay, because typically, I mean, there's nothing that stays with you. So you play it for about 30 minutes and then you can throw it away, walk away, come back later.
Yeah, it's kind of like a proto MOBA in the first-person view, and it's kind of made out to be a bit like a game of American football. So you have all the cheerleaders and you have all the crowd yelling at, for your team, and
Speaking
you
of
have
which,
announcers making calls at people.
for the first one, instead of NPC, like since we don't have any really AI, could we throw in like turrets that the players could like interact with a little bit, just so we get add at least a little bit of a mobile mechanic, just so it's not just people beating on each other all the time. You actually have to worry about something in the environment.
Yeah, that's how it's set up too. You're allowed to set up stations.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it depends basically on what Nelson gets done in the first pass. Really, the important thing at the moment is getting controllable characters in the world and running around. That's like the basic mechanic. It doesn't matter whether or not it's an enjoyable experience so much right now at the very, very, very kind of early stage proof of concept thing.
Okay.
Yeah, at the very basics, we don't even care about health or damage so much as
Can we have
movement mechanics work.
10, 15 people in the same environment seeing each
without
other
crashing.
killing the server? Yeah.
So we can start with ridiculous characters that just run around and tickle each other, basically.
Yeah.
We can start out with cubes and cylinders and spheres and whatever.
You can be a pyramid sliding along the ground.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really that simple in the really early on stage.
Okay, cool.
All right, we got a plan then. And it's past time. You guys go to bed, do your thing, whatever you're going to do, wherever you're at in the USA or the world. Nelson, you there?
Nope.
All our
He's
hopes
never
and
there.
dreams, all our hopes and dreams are riding on you. Okay.
2-syllable Sam. That's what I call
Alrighty.
I like that 2-syllable Sam. So hey, they're all riding on you. I can't wait to see what you come up with. We have our assignments, guys and gals. Thank you very much for being here tonight. And go ahead and take us out, Mr. 50 Shades of Syllable Sam.
them.